The 2020 ESET iSERIES comes to an end. After 8 races and just as many weeks, the first ever virtual ESET GT3 Championship has reached its finale. Having competed in Hungary, Croatia and 2 times in Slovakia, the field will now go racing in the Czech Republic, home soil for many. The 4th round in Slovakia was the first that could decide the title. However, as any racing fan will appreciate, the championship battle is going down to the wire. The 5.4-kilometer Masaryk circuit, located on the outskirts of Brno, is hosting the last 2 races of the championship. Josef Záruba will be entering them with a comfortable 34-point lead, but as already seen many times this year, even that is no guarantee of a success. And so hello and welcome for the last time to our 2020 ESET iSERIES studio. It still feels like yesterday when we started out on the outskirts of Budapest in Hungary, and you may still remember that it was Petr Fulin who dominated the first 2 races of the season. And back then we may have thought, hang on a minute, this guy's gonna just run away with it and it could be a little bit boring. But boy, it wasn't. Incidents, brilliant overtaking and also lots of shocking and interesting moments have characterized the first ever ESET iSERIES. And here we are in front of the finale, and out of 8 races so far we've seen 6 different winners. Let's take a look at the entry list and see who will be competing in the last round of the championship. We've still got the hot and top guns. Pavel Gelner is there, one of the guys that have tasted victory this season. We've also got his teammate Jan Černý. Then we've got, for example, Petr Fulin, who is still within a shot of the title. David Němček, one of the Slovakian guys that have also been victorious in Slovakia. And then our championship leader, Josef Záruba, his teammate Michal Makeš claimed his first victory 2 weeks ago in Slovakia. Then we've got Štefan Rosina and Bartek Mirecki, who has already won 3 qualifying so far, but no races. And it will be interesting to see if Bartek Mirecki finally can actually make it here in Brno and maybe snatch that first victory. But let's take a look at the championship standings and see what the situation is like before the first of the 2 last races of the season. It's Josef Záruba leading with 130 points. He actually lost one due to a penalty after the last round in Slovakia, but still it is 34 points for him over Petr Fulin, which means that Petr Fulin needs to reduce that gap in the first race of the last weekend if he still wants to be in a chance in the last race of the season then, which means race number 2. So Petr Fulin absolutely has to beat Josef Záruba in the first race of the weekend if he still wants to keep that chance. Bartek Mirecki, as already said, he's been really fast in qualifyings, but that first victory keeps slipping away from him. He did not score it in Slovakia, and he's got 2 last races to do so. Pavel Gelner, who was also atop of the standings at one point after the second round in Slovakia, is now trailing the other drivers, and he is 40 points off in 4th. And then we've got David Němček in 5th. Michal Makeš tasted his first victory 2 weeks ago and is currently sitting 6th in the standings. Antonio Citera, also among the winners that we saw. It was actually in Croatia where he took shocking victory from 12th on the grid, and he is currently 7th. And then we've got Gabča Jilková, our female driver, down in 8th. Let's see the team standings. Right now it is Michanek Motorsport. After all, they have been dominating the season, and with 204 points, which means more than 80 points over the second placed Vekra Racing team, their chance to snatch the team's title already in the first race of the last round is pretty big. But it will be interesting further down the order. Fulin Race Academy in 3rd with 96, and BM Racing Team just further 4 points adrift. Then we've got EAC Bratislava with 86 points in 5th. And so we are joining the action on track. The drivers entering their first flying laps of the qualifying. 10-minute session already underway, and so far we've got Pavel Gelner leading, but let's not be mistaken, those are only the outlaps that are not representative. Let's just see what chances we have coming into this qualifying. If you would like to have a guess who was the fastest in the free practice and who is therefore probably the biggest favorite for pole position, then you'd be obviously right again, because it was Bartek Mirecki setting the fastest lap in free practice, and he is expected to claim his 4th pole position in a row, and then we'll see if he finally gets lucky. He's got 1 round to go, so basically 2 races this weekend. Those are his 2 last chances, or last 2 chances, let's put it that way, for collecting that first victory. Bartek Mirecki currently down in 4th, but let's not forget that we are only completing the first flying laps. This is Pavel Gelner driving for Vekra Racing Team, and connected to him is probably some bad news to their squad. We've mentioned a few moments ago that the Vekra Racing Team is currently sitting 2nd in the team's standings with an 82-point gap to the leaders, which are Mechanek Motorsport guys. And to put it in simple mathematical terms, if Vekra Racing Team still wants to claim that team's trophy, they need to reduce that gap by 39 points in race number 1. So they would need to get a 1-2 victory in this race, or in the race number 1, and that, I'm afraid, will not be possible, simply because Pavel Gelner is the only driver from Vekra Racing Team on the track on this weekend, which basically means that Mechanek Motorsport cannot be beaten in the standings this year, and in a sort of rather anticlimactic way, we can basically declare that Mechanek Motorsport guys are the team champions of the 2020 ESET iSERIES already in qualifying. But let's focus on the Drivers' Trophy and also on Bartek Mirecki. We are actually driving now on board with the Polish driver, and so far he's been living up to the standards that we have known from him from the past weekends. That means currently leading, Bartek Mirecki in 1st with the time of 1:59.1. Petr Fulín 1:59.3 in 2nd. Antonio Citera has just set a blisteringly fast lap around the 5.4 kilometer long Masaryk circuit, and that has put him in 2nd. There appears to be Tom Beckhäuser off the track. Antonio Citera slotting into 2nd. Petr Fulín, whom we are following, in 3rd. Only 5 thousandths of a second slower than Citera. Oh, but that was a bit of a mistake there. Entering the last corner, he was a bit too wide, and he touched the grass with his left wheels, and that unstabilized his car coming back onto the start-finish straight, and that not only destroyed his flying lap that he was on, but also compromised the following one, because that way he could not enter the start and finish straight as quickly as he would have liked, and that means that even the next flying lap is affected and will not be fast enough. But still, there is time for one more lap at least for Petr Fulín, so he's still got every chance to take pole. I believe he actually has not been on pole this season, because the first one in Hungary went to Pavel Gelner, and then it was 3 times in a row Bartek Mirecki. Josef Záruba, our championship leader, currently only 5th, and let's see what he needs to do to claim the title already in race number 1. If he finishes 1st or 2nd, he will be crowned champion, and it wouldn't matter absolutely at all where all his opponents would finish their races. So Josef Záruba already in a big chance to win the title here. To put it simply in maths, he's got a 34-point lead over Petr Fulín, and drivers are awarded 25 points for a race victory, which means that Petr Fulín needs to reduce his gap by 9 points in race number 1 if he still wants to hold his chance and keep it into the race number 2. Then obviously he would have to do way better than Josef Záruba. So it's only fair to say that the chances of anybody else but Josef Záruba are pretty slim right now, but as we've already seen many times this season, the Lady Luck really likes to play around with the drivers, and it's not really unusual to see some of the top drivers tumbling down the order after a contact or a mistake and losing a lot of valuable points. So Bartek Merecky, he has already improved his best time to 158.754, and he's the only driver currently down below that 159 marker. Petr Fulín in second with 159.18. He has beaten Antonio Citera so far. Citera now in third, Pavel Gelner in fourth, Josef Záruba only fifth, and his time still over 2 minutes. Then we've got David Němček in sixth, Jakub Knoll in seventh, Keke Platzer in eighth, Michal Makeš down in ninth. So far a low-key qualifying for Michal Makeš, and then Stefan Rosina completing the top 10 currently. So the dying seconds of qualifying ticking down. And so anybody who has not entered their flying lap by now will not have any other chance in the last qualifying of the season. David Němček already seems to be going rather slowly, so that's his qualifying done, and he's currently fourth, so it will only be row number 2 for him, and he has been beaten by Josef Záruba. Josef Záruba has jumped David Němček and is currently in fourth, so he has improved, but only to the second row of the grid. Bartek Merecky has snatched that fourth pole position on a trot. Bartek Merecky, absolutely unbelievable qualifying performance this season. So will he get that first victory? That's the big question in front of race number 1. And the second big question is, will Petr Fulín reduce that gap at least by 9 points in race number 1? That's what he absolutely needs to do if he wants to keep his chance of winning the title. And so far he has done not the best thing for it, but definitely enough for the moment, because he's second on the starting grid, whilst Josef Záruba has actually fallen down to fifth. Pavel Gelner has improved. He's a late improver and he's jumped back up to fourth, and that relegates Josef Záruba into row number 3. So Josef Záruba only fifth, and it will be really interesting in the race. So Bartek Merecky on pole from Petr Fulín, Antonio Citera, Pavel Gelner, and our championship leader Josef Záruba. And that's the cards given out to the drivers in front of race number 1 of the last weekend of the 2020 ESET iSERIES season. Bartek Merecky has snatched that 4th pole position in a row, and if everything goes well, we should have a word with Bartek Merecky, and we'll see what he feels like in front of that race number 1. That's definitely one of the big questions in front of this race, because we've seen him on pole already 3 times. Right now it's the 4th time in a row, but we haven't seen him on the top step of the podium just yet. We've seen him on the podium this season already a couple of times, but that victory keeps getting away from him, and we should now have Bartek Merecky on the line. So let's connect with the Polish driver. Bartek, well done to your 4th qualifying victory of the season and 4th qualifying victory in a row. Great job.
Thank you very much. Welcome everyone, and thank you very much again for the qualification. Yes, it's so good. The fourth time in the row, the quali. I tried to make it as well on the Hungarian, but got some problems on the start. But hope the races will be much better than the quali now.
You've already been on pole 4 times that we've mentioned, but that first victory somehow keeps escaping from you. What's been going on, and what are you going to do with it here in Brno?
I really like the track of the Brno, and I hope now I can try to win or be in the top three. At the moment, I try to push for the official standing, for the standing of the championship. This is the most important for me at the moment. We haven't got so much time. We got 5 minutes. I hope we need to find a strategy. I see the Pedro on the second place and the Pavel on the four. This is the most important for me if they are on the back of the me, because this is the most strategy moment for the fight of for the title.
Okay, so focusing on the strategy, but what do you think was largely the reason why you haven't stood up on the top step of the podium so far? Was it mainly bad luck, or was it maybe being too aggressive, too optimistic? What is that thing that has been missing?
I think sometimes it was bad luck, and sometimes some of my mistakes. Perhaps in the Hungarian, I tried to drive from the middle of the grid. The Slovakia ring got the crash on the Grobnik. I lost a lot of on the start. I lost the start point, the green line. But on the last one, Slovakia ring tried to fight as much as I can, but also not so much luck. But in the second race, got a lot of luck, which gave me a lot of points and stand up in the front of the standing.
So Bartek, thank you very much, and congratulations once again. That's been an absolutely dominant qualifying performance this season. So let's hope and wish you the best of luck into the race, and hope we'll see you on that top step of the podium.
Thank you very much, and see you in the race. I hope the race will be really interesting. Looking for the quali. See you, everyone.
So that was our qualifying king, Bartek Merecki, reigning again. So will he reign in the race as well? That's the big question in front of this race. And also, will Josef Záruba already be crowned champion? We've seen and we've discussed what he needs to do to snatch that. Basically, he has to defend from Petr Fulin and not allow him to reduce that gap by 9 points or any further. And we've already also said that Josef Záruba simply needs to be second or higher, and then he doesn't really have to care where Petr Fulin finishes his race. It is Bartek Merecki. And in the standings, Bartek Merecki is only 4 further points down behind Petr Fulin. So also the Polish driver is within a chance of winning the title, but he's got to reduce that gap by 13 points to Josef Záruba before race number 2 if he wants to stay in the title fight and go down to the wire with all the rest of the guys. Bartek Merecki on pole from Petr Fulin, then Antonio Citera, his best ever qualifying finish of the season, second row of the grid, so hats off to him as well. And that only shows to us that his victory in Croatia was not just some lucky one-off. He really has the speed, and he really has what it takes to be up there with the top guys. Pavel Gelner in fourth. Maybe a little bit disappointed. We've already commented on that team standings or team championship slipping away from Vekara because they only field one car this weekend. So they, no matter what happens, they will not get enough points to get back in touch with Mechanik Motorsport, and their hot iron in the fire, Josef Záruba, the championship leader, slots into 5th on the grid.
There are things we love but don't exactly share with everyone. What is your guilty pleasure? Junk food? Well, posting about running? Splatterfests? Or tearjerkers? Liking your own selfies? Shoes? Way too many shoes? Cosplay? In a bus? Commenting on other people's guilty pleasures? Whatever it is, ESET protects your online privacy.
And so, hello and welcome again in Brno. We are joining the action on the starting grid just outside the second largest city of the Czech Republic in Brno. The Masaryk circuit will host the final round of the season. The final 2 races lay ahead of us and the drivers are taking their positions on the starting grid. So it is Bartek Merecki. Let's not be mistaken by the graphics. It just needs to settle back in, and everything is as it should be. Everything is standing on the starting grid on merit where they should be after the qualifying. 1 minute to go before the race. So let's just see the leading Lambo on the left-hand side of the picture. Maybe a slightly unusual position for the pole sitter. Usually the front guy should be on the right-hand side from our point of view currently, so being, let's say, on the outside line of the track, but this is the way they are lined up. And it will be even more interesting coming into the first corner. This should actually help a bit to Bartek Merecki entering that first corner of the race, because it is a quite long right-hander. It will be really interesting. It is a heartbreaking point, but the first corner is quite fast and doesn't allow for that much of overtaking. The red lights are on, and then when they come off, we will be racing. The action has started. Bartek Merecki from pole, but it seems that Petr Fulin has managed a better getaway, and Petr Fulin is snatching first going into the opening corner, and it is the trio of Porsches. There's a crash already. Pavel Gellner ending up in the gravel, as well as another Porsche, and it could be Petr Fulin. No, it's the other guy in the Porsche. This is Petr Fulin leading the race, and it should be Antonio Citera crashing out on the opening corner of the race. That is absolutely unbelievable. So it is Pavel Gellner and Antonio Citera making contact in the turn number 1, where, as the old racing saying says, you do not win a race in turn number 1, and today Antonio Citera and Pavel Gellner have maybe tried to do so, and they have been punished for that. So Bartek Merecki, a little bit of a slow getaway for him, but then he got lucky because there was a small contact, but it was big enough to unsettle the both Porsches. Pavel Gellner went straight ahead and crashed into the wall. And it seemed at first that Antonio Citera was going to make the corner, but then he made maybe one too many corrections there, and he ended up flying off the track as well. So both of the guys have now all to do it again, and they have to battle their way up the field to snatch some valuable points from this race. And also, let's not forget that the starting grid for race number 2 will be decided by the results of race number 1. No reversing of any amount of positions, so wherever you end up this race, or end up in this race, that will be your starting position into race number 2. So it is really a hard job for Antonio Citera and Pavel Gellner, and it is Petr Fulin doing absolutely everything he can to keep that title fight going down to the wire. He is leading the race from Bartek Merecki, but there we have Josef Záruba in third. This would be enough for Petr Fulin to keep that title hopes alive. But we are still at the very beginning of the race, only 1 lap done, and we've already seen many times this season that really anything can happen. Mistakes, crashes, overtaking of the back markers could be problematic. Actually, no, it is Michal Makeš in third, so my apologies, I have been mistaken, because it is a Michanek Motorsport Lambo in third, but amazingly from 9th on the grid it was Michal Makeš, making so much ground on the opening lap of the race, and currently slotting into third. So this is really becoming very interesting indeed, because Josef Záruba, our championship leader, only down into 6th, and this would mean that his gap to the second placed Petr Fulin would be significantly reduced, and it also keeps Bartek Merecki in the mix, because he's also got chances to win the title. He is 4 points further down in the championship standings. Mathematically also Pavel Gellner was in the game, because he's only further 2 points down behind Bartek Merecki in 4th. So all to play for all of these guys. Sadly, Pavel Gelner has very much probably disqualified himself from this battle. He is now somewhere in 9th, it seems, by the graphics. So he's already been making up lost ground. But will this be enough? He definitely needs to finish higher than Josef Záruba, and not just a little higher. He really needs to score many more points than Josef Záruba. In fact, for Pavel Gelner, it would be the best if Josef Záruba did not finish the race at all. But I believe that Josef Záruba is fully aware of what he needs to do on this weekend. Definitely no silly mistakes, staying away from trouble, and it is better for him maybe to lose some positions rather than lots of points in a crash. So I assume he's not going to be going really that much aggressive. He has overtaken Keke Platzer a few moments ago, I believe, coming into the Schwanz corner, which is the lowest point of the circuit, entering sector number 3. So Petr Fulín leading the race from Bartek Merecký and Michal Makeš. David Němček in 4th. Josef Záruba currently 5th. So the first race of the last weekend of the 2020 championship has started in a really interesting and exciting fashion. There was a crash on the opening lap in the first corner between Pavel Gelner and Antonio Citera. Antonio Citera seems to be in the pits, and it looks like his race has already ended. Pavel Gelner moving up to 8th. He has overtaken Jakub Knoll. And this is the battle for 5th between, or I should say, among Josef Záruba, Keke Platzer, and there's also Tom Beghuyse in the mix, following the guys in his Ferrari. We are re-entering the start-finish straight. Petr Fulín extending his lead way over 1 second. Drive it like you've just stolen it is maybe what springs to mind when watching Petr Fulín. He's trying to pull a bit more of a gap from Bartek Merecký, but you can remain assured that Bartek Merecký will be hot on his heels in this race, because he will be looking for that first victory of the season, and he also needs to stay in the mix. This is on one hand a great position in relation to the championship standings for Bartek Merecký. He is way ahead of Josef Záruba, but he is also behind Petr Fulín, which means that he would lose further 7 points to Petr Fulín, and those 7 points he would then have to win back in the race number 2, plus the 4 he is already losing on Petr Fulín. So it will be a hard job for Bartek Merecký in race number 2 then. He definitely needs to finish ahead of Petr Fulín to keep his chances, let's say, more realistic. And I really think we could not wish for a dramatic, for more dramatic settings at this stage of the race. This is Gregor Žigo down in 16th, navigating his BMW around the 5.4 kilometer track. So let's have a bit of a Sunday drive with Gregor Žigo and enjoy the stadium section, which is a brilliant viewing spot if you are the spectators here in Brno. It's a place where lots of overtaking takes place, and those hills surrounding the track provide for great spot for you to see multiple corners and lots of action. So if you haven't been yet and you are planning to visit Brno at any point in the future, stadium section is definitely a place to go for you. If you want to see, as they say, maximum bang for your bucks. Petr Fulín leading the race, still from Bartek Mirecky. That gap stabilizing around 1 second. So Bartek Mirecky is not letting Petr Fulín escape. Petr Fulín has also entered another championship under the ESET series, and that being the TCR Virtual Championship, and from less than 2 weeks ago he knows what it's like to be hunted down by a Polish guy and then overtaken, because he contested a couple of races in Hungary, and it was Bartosz Groszek winning both races there. Needs to be said that within the TCR there is a reverse grid order for race number 2. So Petr Fulín was starting on pole thanks to the reverse grid. But even so, even though that Bartosz Groszek won that race number 1, he did manage to hunt down Petr Fulín and then overtake him towards the end of the race. Petr Fulín will therefore be hoping that here in the season finale in the GT3 Championship he will be more successful in defending his place from a Polish competitor. That's Bartek Mirecky this time. But look at this, Michal Makeš only 12th. Something must have happened to the local guy. Michal Makeš was running 3rd in the opening stages of the race, but suddenly he is down to 12th. So either a mistake or an incident with another driver has dropped Michal Makeš way down the order and outside the points actually. So not a great situation for Michal Makeš. Petr Fulín leading from Bartek Mirecky, then it's David Němček in 3rd, and the bad luck of his teammate has actually helped Josef Záruba move up into 4th. So he's already +1 on the starting grid standings, but so is Petr Fulín, because he was starting 2nd and he is leading the race. Bartek Mirecky trying to stay in touch with him. And we are nearing the halfway marker of the race number 1 here in Brno. And it seems that Bartek Mirecky is really trying to reduce that gap down under 1 second. Then the distance between Bartek Mirecky and David Němček in 3rd is getting ever bigger and bigger. And David Němček keeps losing ground and touch with the leading pair. Which should, in theory, bring chances to Josef Záruba to move further up the order and do a bit more of that damage limitation, as Michal Makeš is also trying to do, because he's now overtaken one of the Mercs, and that should be Šimon Ladňák. Yes, Michal Makeš has overtaken his Polish competitor and has moved up into 11th, which is still without points in ESET iSERIES. Petrofulin coming out of that last corner, and he has done so already like a million times at least in his career. He's been racing in Brno like forever, really, because he raced here many years ago in the Skoda Octavia Cup. He's also done some racing, let's say, with the Fiat 500 Abarth machinery and others. Matěj Kácovský following Tomáš Liedl, and Tomáš Liedl has just binned it, and he has sent his Lambo into the barrier, exiting the first corner. It is a long right-hander, and you are always dancing on the edge of the grip and also of your talent. It seems that that dance was maybe that little bit too vigorous for Tomáš Liedl, and he's dropped it there. Pavel Gelner actually making quite good progress, and he's up to 7th currently after that first lap incident, but the time is running out for him really quickly, and he's still nowhere near where he needs to be to keep his own fight going into race number 2. He also needs to beat Josef Záruba, but he really needs to beat him well. And actually, 4th place for Josef Záruba would mean 12 points for him. 2nd place for Bartek Merecký would mean 18 points. And if the race is finished in the standings or in the order that we see right now, it would mean that only Josef Záruba and Petrofulin would stay in the fight for race number 2. However, Bartek Merecký has not really said his last word yet, and he absolutely needs to overtake Petrofulin if he wants to stay in that fight. It is currently his only chance that is, let's say, in his hands or within his hands. Anything else is kind of out of them, because the other situation that would ensure him staying in the title fight would be some form of a bad luck for Josef Záruba, but that is definitely out of his hands. And for that, he could only hope. Matěj Kácovský. He already dropped behind Pavel Gelner, so he is currently 8th, and he's got 2 Michanek Motorsport Lambos behind him, them being Jakub Knoll and Michal Makeš in 9th and 10th. And this is Pavel Gelner troubling Tom Beckhuizer. Tom Beckhuizer and into the Schwanz corner. He really tried it hard, and he dove down the inside there. It was sort of a last-minute overtake, and he very nearly made it stick. There was a slight contact between the pair, but this kind of, let's say, touching will not be reviewed by the stewards. They have been handing penalty points before this weekend. There are 3 forms of penalties: 1 penalty point, 2 penalty points, or 3 penalty points. If it's only a, let's say, slight contact. Ooh, Bartek Merecký trying it now again to Petrofulin, on Petrofulin, and it is a change of the leader. Bartek Merecký, he has already kind of checked this opportunity in this corner 1 lap ago, and it seems that he assessed that that is the place to do it, and this time around he has tried it and he has been lucky. There was contact, so it was hard, but this also will be allowed because it did not send Petr Fulín into any form of trouble other than losing the lead. So this is making everything ever more dramatic, because this way even Bartek Merecký will stay in the title fight. Pavel Gelner attacking Tom Beghäuser, and that's the kind of incident that could win you penalty points. Maybe luckily and at the same time unluckily for Pavel Gelner, it was actually him being penalized by that incident, because it was him spinning. Tom Beghäuser did actually go off the track, but only slightly. So he's back on it, and he hasn't lost his position, only a couple of seconds. So Bartek Merecký on the way to his first victory of the season. 5 minutes to go. Bartek Merecký in first from Petr Fulín, and let's redo the maths right now, because this changes everything. Bartek Merecký is back in the title fight, because this way he would take 25 points. Josef Záruba still holding that 4th place. That would mean that Josef Záruba would only score 12 points. That's 13 more, and that is actually... Is that enough? Currently, Josef Záruba is leading by 38 points in the standings. So this would be exactly that amount that Bartek Merecký would need to stay in the title fight. However, that would mean that Bartek Merecký would reduce his gap down to 25. So exactly as many points as are handed for a race victory, and then Bartek Merecký would only have the chance to equal Josef Záruba on points. He would not be able to beat him, and if they finished with the same number of points at the end of the season, then the title battle would be decided by the number of, let's say, higher finishes. So it would be the high number of victories, and if the race number 1 is finished as it is now, then there would be a 25-point gap. So let me see. That would mean that Bartek Merecký would then have to win race number 2 as well, and Josef Záruba would have to fail to score any other points. And that means that Josef Záruba would be first with 2 victories. Bartek Merecký would equal him also with 2 victories. And that would be really interesting, because then it would go down to number of second places. And currently, Josef Záruba has been second 2 times. Bartek Merecký has been second 3 times. So that would hand the title to Bartek Merecký by 1 second place. But that is all just crazy maths that I'm really trying to run a bit too deep into right now. Let's see how this race is finished, and let's also see what this result does to Petr Fulín's chances, because this way he would only be scoring 18 points, and that means only 6 more than Josef Záruba. But Petr Fulín needs to score 9 more than Josef Záruba. So that change of the lead has actually swung that pendulum in Bartek Merecký's benefit, and actually this result is pushing Petr Fulín out of the title fight. And this is the trump card holder, Josef Záruba, only in 4th, and doesn't seem to have the pace to trouble 3rd placed David Němček, but he doesn't really need it. 4th place is still enough for him to stay in the fight, and it would actually make his position coming into race number 2 even more comfortable, because he would then have to simply score any points, even one. And we are on the last lap of the race. Bartek Merecky being the leader from Petr Fulín and David Němček. Josef Záruba in 4th, Keke Placer in 5th, Tom Beghäuser in 6th, Pavel Gelner down in 7th, and this means that Pavel Gelner is going to lose his title chances after this race. Michal Makeš in 8th, and then Matěj Kácovský and Jakub Knoll currently completing the top 10. Petr Fulín still not giving up. He needs to overtake Bartek Merecky. Absolutely needs to. Half a lap to go. There are still places where you can do it, but he's got to be absolutely on it, absolutely spot on. Time has just run out, so we are about to complete the last couple of corners. A small mistake from Petr Fulín. He helped to mow the lawn here in Brno. Not exactly the kind of thing he needs to be doing right now. To stay in the title fight, he needs to overtake Bartek Merecky. That's his only remaining chance. The Schwanz corner coming down into the deepest part of the Brno track. And now we are beginning to climb back onto that finish line. Bartek Merecky has already scored 4 pole positions, but no victory. He's always been unlucky, or maybe too optimistic, maybe too aggressive, making mistakes, whatever. But this time, when it matters absolutely the most, he has done it. Bartek Merecky entering the start and finish straight, and it is just about the right time for Bartek Merecky to claim his first victory of the season. Bartek Merecky is victorious in Brno, and Bartek Merecky, by doing so, is keeping his title chances alive, only just, but still alive. Petr Fulín out of the title fight with 2nd, David Němček finishing the race in 3rd, and this is Josef Záruba. Still cannot be crowned champion, but right now in the race number 2, he only needs 1 point, and he is one. Josef Záruba in the most comfortable position he can ever be, coming into race number 2. In that title fight, Keke Placer completing the top 5, and then in the points we also have 6th Tom Beghäuser, 7th Pavel Gelner, 8th Michal Makeš, 9th Matěj Kácovský, and 10th Jakub Knoll. Tomáš Pekař coming home down in 14th in his McLaren, but it has been a dramatic and very interesting race number 1 here in Brno indeed, and it is everything but decided. But the chances now for Bartek Merecky, they are still alive, but really only by a skin of your teeth.
Let's go.
And so that was our race number 1 here in Brno. And that first ever victory has come in that most important moment for Bartek Merecki. So he has finally converted his pole position into a win, and that win has helped him to stay in the title fight. But now it will be really difficult for him in race number 2. He still got a chance, but not a very big one. So that Drivers' Championship is still to be decided. What has already been decided, as commented on, is the team's fight, and simply because Vekra Racing Team failed to field more than one car in race number 1, it is then Michanek Motorsport winning the team's crown, and we are in touch with Jiří Michanek Jr., the team boss of Michanek Motorsport. So Jiří, congratulations on winning that team's trophy. It was actually a bit anticlimactic in race number 1, a bit easy, but still great job over the whole season. Great job to you.
Thank you very much. We won the championship, so I would say big thanks to the guys, to all drivers, that because we were taking points race by race, at the end we won the championship. So it's really good for us, and I'm very happy that this season became, because during the during the COVID break we could do something at least. So perfect.
So if you should basically assess the season, what was it in your opinion that helped your team? Hi guys, having fun there, and you only have the right to do so because you are the champions now. So okay, yeah, exactly. I'm loving it, and I'm sure that the viewers are also loving it. Just tell me, if you were to maybe pick one thing that helped you win this trophy, was it consistency, was it aggressivity, was it the pace? What was it that won you this team's trophy?
Yeah, I think it was the consistency, because we could manage race by race to get some points, and that was the key of the success. So we didn't do any mistakes. That's it. So good.
I think you should really go and hit your drivers over the head, because they still have another race to concentrate on, and me too, actually. They are disturbing me as well right now in the studio. So lots of good fun already going around. That driver's title is already just around the corner for Josef Záruba, but still some work needs to be done yet. It seems that you are already kind of pre-celebrating. How are you actually going to celebrate that team's title?
Yeah, I think that we can win the championship in the celebrating, because Josef and Mr. Formanek, they're really good for this. So I think if we win championship for celebrating, that we are the winners for sure.
Yeah, and I was actually going to say, what do you think are your chances to win the driver's title? It's also really, really very close. Josef basically needs to score 1 point, and it's in the bag. So what is your advice for him for the last race? Maybe simply have fun, right?
Yeah, exactly. Have some fun and finish the race, get some points as well, and finish the championship. So that's the.
Guys, really congratulations, and I'm loving your fun atmosphere there in your team. So really congratulations on this season's result. So that was Michanek Motorsport, guys, already enjoying the team's title. The driver's title is very near, but still has to be worked for. And we've already seen that you can really not finish a race and lose everything. It still could be done, but really this would have to require maybe a stupid move or something too aggressive, which is really something that Josef Záruba definitely doesn't need. And I'm absolutely sure that he will be staying away from by any means that he can. So race number 2 in front of us, and we'll see who will be victorious in that one. Bartek Merecki will be starting from pole because he won that race number 1. Let's actually check the results. Bartek Merecki with this victory staying in the title fight. Petr Fulín second, and that basically deleted all his remaining chances to win the title in 2020 ESET iSERIES. David Němček scoring another podium of the season. David Němček has already tasted victory, but only once in Slovakia, so he's still up there and can score another one. Josef Záruba, as already commented on, he needs to score pretty much anything he likes, and he will be crowned champion. Josef Záruba finishing 4th in race number 1, and then we had Keke Platzer in 5th. Pavel Gellner also losing his mathematical chances by crashing out in turn number 1 on the opening race of the weekend and finishing only 7th. Also Michal Makeš finishing down in 8th. So that was a low-key qualifying in that race for Michal Makeš. Actually, he was pretty fast on the opening lap. He managed to move himself up into 3rd, but then got some bad luck again, and that relegated him back down the order. And so we are back on the starting grid where we are getting ready for race number 2. And right now, from many of the drivers, it is just about having that last 25 minutes of good fun. Petr Fulin being among them. He has already lost his chances to win the title. Petr Fulin will be again starting from the front row, from the 2nd place of the grid. So he will be eyeing to go around the outside of turn 1 into the lead, just like he did in the race number 1, and this time maybe holding on to that lead. Bartek Merecki, there is one and only mission for the Polish driver. He absolutely has to win this race, and then also for him to win the title, Josef Záruba needs to fail to finish or simply fail to score any points, which is highly unlikely, but still can happen. So championship all but decided. I know it is already very much one-sided, but still let's enjoy those last 25 minutes of racing. And there we go! Last race of the 2020 ESET iSERIES, and again a blistering start from Petr Fulin, who is moving up into 1st yet again in front of Bartek Merecki. So Bartek Merecki not converting that pole position into the lead on the opening corner of the opening lap of the race, and there's a crash, and what we have said is there. Josef Záruba falling down the order. I cannot believe this. Bartek Merecki fighting for the 1st position. This is absolutely incredible for the championship. Bartek Merecki fighting Petr Fulin. He is definitely not giving up, but Bartek Merecki knows he has to win this one. Keke Platzer also there in 3rd, and Josef Záruba down in 16th. So guys, maybe that was too much fun in front of this race and too little concentration. Absolutely amazing stuff on the opening lap of the race. Bartek Merecki has lost the lead, but is still in the game. But what is more important is what happened right after the corner number 1, because Josef Záruba crashed out of the race. He had a contact with another driver there. Let's see who that was. That must have been David Němček. Yes, the 2 Lamborghinis coming together on the exit of corner number 1. And then we had that battle for 1st. Bartek Merecki has already done it in race number 1. He has overtaken Petr Fulin, so he knows how to do this, and this is exactly what he needs to do, because if he now wins this race and Josef Záruba fails to score any points, it will be Bartek Merecki victorious in the championship battle. Absolutely amazing. What was absolutely highly unlikely is now getting closer to the truth. Amazing stuff on the opening lap of the race, and I cannot believe it. Josef Záruba binned his chances, but he is trying to move back up the order. The graphics going haywire currently, so we have to wait what comes out of this. There is definitely absolutely nothing to lose for Petr Fulin. He has a 3rd victory of the season at his hands. So he will be a hard defender in this race, because the title hopes are gone, and the only thing he has to concentrate on right now is that victory. Bartek Merecki trying to go around the outside, but that is not the way to go. Bartek Merecki, and absolutely amazingly he can still do this. Josef Záruba, yeah. We saw him having fun and being cocky in the studio in front of his most important race of the season. And it was just a slight touch with David Němček, but that was all it was needed to crash out of the race. And luckily for him, the damage is not so strong in the Virtual Championship. This being a real race, I am absolutely sure that Josef Záruba would already have been out of it. And he would be back in the team's garage, chewing whichever monitor he would be looking at. And he would be on his toes, being absolutely nervous about this battle. This is for the championship, so everything is really going to go down to the wire. We didn't even expect this, did we? And Bartek Merecki has got the title within his grasp. He's got to be calm enough. He also cannot afford any mistakes there. So all he has to do is basically repeat race number 1. He knows it can be done because he has already done it, but I'm pretty sure that this time around it's going to be even more difficult for him, because as already said, Petr Fulin has really nothing to lose, and there's only race victory to play for him, and he has no need to care if he finishes this race or not. If he destroys the car, it's just a virtual world. There is no money he would have to pay for a destroyed machinery. So the only thing that could actually get damaged in this race is his ego. Tomáš Pekař fighting Šimon Ladňák for 9th. I mean, what a title decider this is turning out to be. David Němček down in 11th and Josef Záruba still only 14th. Still way further down the order than he needs to be. And outside the points finishes. Absolutely unbelievable. Ooh, Tomáš Pekař spinning it around, so gifting 1 place to Josef Záruba. So this has made his job a little easier. Now he's got his teammate in front of him, that's Jakub Knoll. In theory, Jakub Knoll should let him go. This should be pretty easy team orders here from Mechanik Motorsport. But we've already seen what can also happen. Just remember 2 weeks ago there was a crash between exactly these two, I mean Jakub Knoll and Josef Záruba, when we thought that Jakub Knoll was letting Josef Záruba go, and maybe Josef thought that too. Then there was a crash, and actually it was a crash for which Josef Záruba was penalized, and that crash actually, and it's incredible to say, it cost him 1 point because he got a penalty point. And had he not received that 1 penalty point, he would already have been the champion right now. But he did crash into his teammate when he absolutely didn't need to, and that may have actually lost him the title. That's absolutely crazy to think about. This time around everything is going well for the two. So Jakub Knoll letting Josef Záruba through. Josef Záruba is now 11th, and there's only 1 place he needs to collect, 1 further place, and he will be a champion. Also Bartek Merecki still needs to overtake Petr Fulin, and we'd better get back into that action, because it seems to me that Bartek Merecki is really close to Petr Fulin right now. There they are, down there in the Schwanz corner. This is the battle for 3rd, but it's not that interesting really. So let's go back into the battle for 1st. This is the one that we are interested in right now. Petr Fulin still leading from Bartek Merecki. And this is preventing Bartek Merecki from snatching the title. That would be absolutely amazing, because we have kind of mocked Bartek Merecki all season long for being only fast in qualifyings, but then not being able to get his act together and win any race. And this time in Brno, he is on the way to make it a perfect weekend, and decorated with a title win. A small mistake from Petr Fulin in the turn number 1. Oh, he chose a bit of a wider line there. So this is not allowing Bartek Merecky through. This is also an interesting battle between Pavel Gelner and Michal Makeš for fourth. And they are both shadowing Keke Platzer in third. So this is the fight for that last podium position of the season between the trio, or among the trio, let's say. And Josef Záruba. Josef Záruba is trying to catch Šimon Ladňák. So, right now, Josef Záruba would become the champion simply because Bartek Merecky has not overtaken Petr Fulín. Gregor Žigo reversing back onto the track there. So, let's hope that he will stay out of anybody else's racing line. And this is also very crucial. Josef Záruba against Šimon Ladňák for 10th. That is Gregor Žigo. But he is letting them through, so textbook stuff from him. I mean, this is still anybody's race between the two. And it's absolutely amazing that this is for title. And who would have thought that? Because, Michal Makeš overtaking Keke Platzer for third. So that's an important change. Michal Makeš getting himself onto the podium. So, who would have thought this? Bartek Merecky entered this weekend with a 38-point gap to Josef Záruba. It seemed that it was all nice and easy for Josef Záruba, but then it was rather a low-key race number one where he was only fourth, but still that was pretty much okay for the championship outcome. But what happened on the opening lap of race number two was absolutely shocking, and this is really keeping everybody now on their toes, and definitely us here in the commentary being among everybody else. So, this is really important. Josef Záruba trying to attack Šimon Ladňák, but also trying to stay away from trouble. He absolutely cannot afford crashing out again. We are nearing the halfway marker of race number two. He can do it, definitely, because simply on pace, on paper, Josef Záruba should be much faster than Šimon Ladňák, so this should be easy. But if you've got your nerves working right now, it's a whole different battle. David Němček fighting Matěj Kácovský for 8th, and very nice maneuver around the outside. David Němček being one of the actors of the crash of this race. Josef Záruba still only 11th. He is now choosing the outside line into the penultimate corner. Ooh, that was close. Šimon Ladňák definitely not giving him anything for free. Ooh, and the battle continues on the start and finish straight. Šimon Ladňák still holding on to that inside line. This will be interesting. Into that first corner, and into the points goes Josef Záruba. So currently Josef Záruba, he is not going to wait for what happens at the front of the field. He is taking his destiny into his own hands, and he is moving into the points, and this is that 1 point that he needs to secure the championship. So right now everything is in hands of Josef Záruba. I think that Šimon Ladňák spun his car there after that battle, but that's not that important. What is important is this battle as well, because Bartek Merecky has still not overtaken Petr Fulín. So right now that pendulum is swinging onto the side of Josef Záruba, but really only just. And when I said before the race that still anything can happen in motorsport and that we've seen incidents, we've seen crashes, we've seen silly maneuvers that lost drivers valuable points, I never really honestly expected that the race could be panning out as it is right now. And it's still really exciting. It's still anybody's game, this. Because it's still anything but decided. Bartek Merecki can still overtake Petr Fulín, and Josef Záruba can still lose that one place. I mean, right now it would be that bit harder because the driver behind him is now his teammate Jakub Knoll. So it seems that Šimon Ladňák did actually make mistake there. So he did lose that one position. And Jakub Knoll now there in 11th, being that security element for Josef Záruba. So should anything happen right now, he would definitely be ready to give him that 10th place back again. If not, I assume that he would be hit over his head with a boat paddle by their team boss, Jiří Mičánek. And I would really like to see what it looks like right now in the team garage, or the team headquarters, let's call it that, because it was all fun, all jokes, and now I assume there are rather long faces in Mičánek's team. Bartek Merecki, he has not been staying in touch as well as he was in race number 1, so he's actually been losing ground, and he's already some 1.5 seconds adrift behind Petr Fulín, so this is also not helping his title aspirations. And if we are excluding the title fight right now for a moment, it would this would hand that second place back to Petr Fulín, but there is Gregor Žigo making way for the leaders. Ooh, he's spinning his car. That was really close. That was really close, and I believe that there was some luck involved, because Bartek Merecki was just passing around, and he did have to tighten that corner's exit not to crash in the back marker. Tomáš Pekař has left the race, so it really hasn't been going well for Tomáš Pekař this weekend, and that's his chances done. And actually Bartek Merecki lost some more ground there because of that, let's say, troubled passing of a back marker. But still, over 7 minutes to go. Josef Záruba still only 10th. So it is still very close, and this pendulum can still swing back if drivers are not careful. Josef Záruba closing on to the back of Tomáš Liedl. It is a battle of two Lamborghinis, and they are now re-entering the start and finish straight. Josef Záruba also needs to overtake Tomáš Liedl. I mean, he doesn't absolutely need to, or it's not an absolute must, but it is like in ice hockey, when you are winning by 1 goal, it's always better to score another one to get that confidence back. And right now Josef Záruba is up into 9th, so he has overtaken Tomáš Liedl. So another mistake there from Josef Záruba. It seems that his car may be also damaged from that opening lap crash. So the BMW machine already parked on the side of the track there. And Petr Fulín, he has extended his lead to around 3 seconds. So this is getting ever harder for Bartek Mirecki, but still hats off to the Polish driver, because he has given it absolutely everything that he had, and he got dangerously close to snatching that championship lead away from Josef Záruba, and that would be quite a season climax if that worked out, because Bartek Mirecki, as already said so many times this season, up to this weekend, he had not scored any victory. He's been on pole 4 out of 5 times, but victories had actually been escaping from him. And that also means that at no point of the season he was the championship leader, and we've already had 3. If I'm not mistaken, it was Petr Fulín leading the championship after dominating the opening round in Hungary. Then it was Pavel Gellner, who was victorious in Slovakia in round number 2, and he was also at that point, or had been, the most consistent of them all, which handed him the championship lead. But then Josef Záruba got his act together and won a race in Croatia. Then he also collected another victory 2 weeks later back in Slovakia. And he entered the last weekend as a clear championship favorite, but nearly lost it all through a silly mistake. I mean, it's still debatable if it was his mistake, but that was definitely a crash he did not need. Slight touch with David Němček exiting the last corner, and truth be told, Josef Záruba was in front, so he was the one who could dictate the racing line. But still, if you lose a championship through an incident like this, you can complain as much as you want that it was your right to choose the line, but it would still be you losing that championship. So being in such a comfortable position, you really need to know that you absolutely have to stay away from trouble. And Josef Záruba, and look at it one way or another, any way you like, simply did not stay away from trouble on the opening lap of this race. Luckily for him, since then he has been doing what he needed, and that has been collecting the lost ground, and he's still continuing to move further up the order. So he is closing on to 8th placed Matěj Kácovský. And still, let's repeat this, he does not need to overtake him. And maybe, if anything, I personally believe that if it was, let's say, Niki Lauda in that Mechanic Motorsport Lamborghini, he would now say, okay, this is the position that I need, that is enough. Let's not go into any further risk, because what do I get from being not 9th but 8th? Not much more pride, but it's only danger, potential danger, overtaking another driver. Okay, this one was quite easy because Maciej Karczewski made a mistake exiting the stadium section, so we will hand this one to Josef Záruba. So hats off to the Czech driver. He is back up to 8th, and that's 2 more points for him for the championship. And still, we need to say that Bartek Merecki is now way behind what he needs to be, or where he needs to be, because Petr Fulín stays in the lead, and he has actually opened the gap that has been extended to around 4 seconds. So this time around he is not letting Bartek Merecki into any further chances. I mean, Bartek Merecki did have some chances at the beginning of the race, and he was very nearly back in the lead, but Petr Fulín did manage to defend his position and then run away with it. So it's not going to be the title for Petr Fulín, but he will have scored 3 victories, more than anybody else this season. It only shows you that Petr Fulín has always had the speed, has always had the talent, but has not had that needed consistency during the season. And he's been, how to say this, out-consistenced. Maybe this is not even a word, but let's use it anyway. He was beaten by Josef Záruba on consistency this season. And that's what matters the most in the end. So Josef Záruba, by scoring 8th, he will be crowned champion. And Bartek Merecki, as we already said, he needed to win this. He's only going to come home 2nd, so it will not be enough. Petr Fulín, he is going to do it, and he will be the biggest winner of the season. 3 victories. Nobody has scored more victories than Petr Fulín, but it is not the title. Petr Fulín winning the last race of the season in Brno. Bartek Merecki, hats off to him, because what a performance he has put in on the last weekend here in Brno. And it was brilliant, it was amazing, it was dramatic, it was exciting, but it simply wasn't enough. And Josef Záruba, well, we should have him on the line after the race, so we are going to kind of grill him for that cockiness in front of the race, but in the end it is enough, and Josef Záruba is the 2020 ESET iSERIES champion. So it was a heart-stroke moment at the beginning of the race, exiting that first corner, crashing out into the barrier after a collision with David Němeček, and he very nearly lost it all. That was so dramatic, and for one moment we could really believe that it could, in the end, really swing back to the side of Bartek Merecki. What were the chances? What were the odds? And it was this close, but then the rest of the race really played out in the hands of Josef Záruba. So let's go and re-watch and relive the best moments of the last race of the season. This is the start. Bartek Merecki, just as in the race number 1, did not keep the lead going into the first corner, but that was still okay for him. That was still not all lost. But then what happened at the exit of corner number 1, that was really heart-stopping. There's the incident. Slight touch between the 2 Lambos, and both of them falling down the order. Pavel Gellner has taken on where he left off in race number 1, so basically finishing that catch up from race number 1, and he was moving up the order. Bartek Merecki was trying to get back into the lead. He did nearly get there, but never really made that move stick, and in the end he actually lost contact with Petr Fulín, so also lost contact with that title hope. Tomáš Pekař spinning out and handing one place to Josef Záruba, who was at one point as low as 16th in the race. He absolutely needed to get himself back into the points. I mean, in the end, it would have been enough even without the points, because Bartek Merecký failed to overtake Petr Fulín and was only second. And truth be told, after being penalized in Slovakia, maybe after that slight collision with David Němeček, you never really know what the stewards will say to that. So we did not have all the replays, all the points of view, all the angles at our disposal. So we can't really judge on that completely. So Josef Záruba, it was actually better for him to absolutely make sure that he would get the title, to win a furthermore positions, not only that 10th place, but also, for example here, position number 8 from Matěj Kácovský, just in case he gets maybe one penalty point for that. I believe he will not, but as we said, you never know. And in the end, this was his title victory, his title glory. So Josef Záruba, in the end, really making it, and we can now claim and confirm that Josef Záruba is truly the 2020 ESET iSERIES champion. So we also have Josef Záruba on the line. Hi Josef, and you are the 2020 ESET iSERIES champion. How does that sound?
Hi there. I think it's quite good. Yeah, no, I didn't know it. I didn't know it till now. I don't know how was the points and so on. But guys told me it probably is. It probably did I probably won? So I'm happy, you know. I'm happy. I zkusit šušen, you know, downhill. I'm sorry, that's. So yeah, it's pretty good.
But I also need to say, Pepíku, we saw your joking, your cockiness in front of the race number 2. You may have thought that it's all in the bag, and then you binned it, really, after that first corner. I'm not going to comment if it was your mistake or if it was very unlucky for you, but still, what did you feel after that touch with David Němeček exiting corner number 1?
I just I was trying to give him as much space as possible, and he just touched me and spin me. But you know, in real life, it wouldn't spin me like that. So it's so yeah, it was racist in it, but I was pretty unlucky. So yeah, that's it.
That's actually funny, because I don't know if you knew the maths that were valid there, because had Bartek Merecký won the race and had you finished outside the points, he would have been champion. You would actually have had the same amount of points, same amount of victories, but he would have the bigger amount of second places, and that would win him the title. That was so close, really, but in the end it swung back into your place. So really congratulations on that championship win, and we can only ask, how are you now going to celebrate? We're sort of already seeing that now, but how are you going to celebrate with the guys?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say that the story doesn't ask, so I won, and that's it. And I probably go to my favorite bar and I just get fucked, you know.
All right, guys. But anyway, really, thank you for making this last event and the season finale so much fun. It was really enjoyable from our side to watch you, and really enjoy the celebration. And yeah, thank you for the season, and congratulations once again.
Thank you, and thanks to ESET for all the nice series, and it was pretty good. And I'm looking for the prize money, so hope there's gonna be a lot of money there, so I can you know take guys on a dinner. And yeah, so thank you all, and maybe next year we're gonna see each other again. And thanks to Giri.
Okay, so that was Josef Záruba and Michanek Motorsport. We can now say that Josef Záruba is the drivers' champion of the 2020 ESET iSeries. Michanek Motorsport is the team's champion of the 2020 ESET iSeries. And with that, we can actually finish the last round and the season finale here in Brno. We really hope that you enjoyed watching the series. I think it's been amazing. It's been full of fun, full of action, full of great overtaking, and full of interesting moments and collisions. So let's now see the final results of the final race. Petr Fulin scoring third and last victory of the season. Nobody has scored more wins than he has, but as we said, the consistency simply wasn't there, so he just failed and just missed out onto that title, but still showing great pace in this series. Bartek Merecki finally getting his first victory and nearly the title also on the last in the last race of the season. Michal Makeš completing the podium for the last race of the season. Josef Záruba finishing down in 8th. Low-key result, but all he needed really in this race to snatch that title, which he did, and now all he can do is maybe break the hell loose and go celebrating with the guys. It seems that there is a great fun there going on in the garage, so let's just leave them to it and have them enjoy and really milk that moment as they have already been setting out to do. So that was the last race of the season, and we really hope that you enjoyed it. We really hope that we can maybe see each other again for a similar championship and for a similar occasion. It's been a pleasure, and from my side, Pavel Fabry, I was your host and commentator for the series. We should now even see again that crash that nearly decided the title and nearly took it away from Josef Záruba. Let's actually see it from another point of view. That's a brilliant idea that we can now see this. So this is Josef Záruba's view. He's taking the first corner of the race. He is leaving all the space. Yeah, so this was definitely not any mistake of his own. And he actually didn't even crash into the barrier, it seems to me. Ooh, that was really trusting the other drivers, reversing back onto the racetrack there. But you also saw David Němeček there, so not much he could do there, but definitely he could do without such an incident. But in the end, still hats off to him, because he managed to get on with it and collect enough positions, collect enough points to be handed the champion. And I believe, if I'm right, that is it for the 2020 ESET iSeries. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for being with us. And we really hope that you enjoyed it at least as much as we did. And from now, it is from the studio a very warm goodbye.